Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Wellness Coaching webinar. This is Olivia Giordano from the Healthy Start TA and Support Center. We want to honor everyone's time, so we'll get started. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Tess Pritchard, who will go over the agenda and share some housekeeping.
All right, welcome everyone. So again, my name is Tess Pritchard. I'm the project specialist here at the Healthy Start TA and Support Center at NHQ. We're going to begin the webinar by reviewing some housekeeping before we turn it over to Ken Harris for a welcome, and then hear from Dr. Deborah Teplow, who will be running our wellness training today. So we're going to move into some logistics. All participants are muted upon entry. We ask that you remain muted to limit background noise. We encourage you all to use the chat box to ask questions or post comments throughout this webinar. All questions will be captured from the chat box, and we will address as many as we can during the webinar. We will create a Q&A document that captures all questions and answers that will be posted to the Epic Center with the webinar recording. So moving into some audio logistics. If you can hear me, you're likely connected correctly, but we'll do a quick review to ensure everyone's on the same page. Join the meeting by clicking the link in the email that was sent to you upon registering for this webinar. An audio conference box will appear. You can join by either computer audio or phone call. If you'd like to use computer audio, just click that computer audio button and you'll be all set. If you would like to join by phone call, dial the given number, enter the meeting ID and press pound, then enter your given participant ID and press pound. You will then be connected to the webinar audio. Next, we'll review the chat box. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a toolbar. Click chat and it will launch the chat box on the right side of your screen. Type your question or comments into the chat box and send to everyone. Again, we encourage the use of the chat box to ask any questions or pose any comments during this webinar. Before we dive in, we're going to set up a way for you all to engage with us virtually during this presentation. We will be utilizing Poll Everywhere to ask you some questions that will guide us in this webinar. Poll Everywhere is a program that allows each of you to send your thoughts to us via text messaging or any browser. If you're interested in participating this way, I'll spend a couple minutes setting us up. The easiest way to use Poll Everywhere is through text messaging. You're going to want to do this by opening up a new text message and texting to the number 22333, as you see on the screen there. So the content of the message you're going to send is Healthy Start 428, again to that number 22333. No spaces and capitalization does not matter. Once you've logged in, you'll receive this confirmation message that you've joined. And that will be the only time that you'll need to text Healthy Start 428 to the number 22333. A couple additional tips. Again, capitalization does not matter, but spelling and spaces do. You only need to text that Healthy Start 423 the first time. After that, you just want to send your answers along in that same thread. If texting isn't working or you don't have access to a cell phone right now, visit pollev/healthystart428, as you see up there on the screen, and you can respond to the poll via your internet browser. There are no charges to your cell phone beyond what your carrier typically charges for text messages. So now we're all set to participate via texting responses through Poll Everywhere, and I am going to hand it off to Ken to do a brief introduction. Ken?
Thanks so much, Tess. And again, everyone, welcome to this afternoon's training. And we know that amidst our challenge in our nation at this point, that all of you are quite busy. So we really appreciate you being here, and we do hope that everyone is doing well. We're really excited to have Dr. Deborah Teplow here with us today. She had the opportunity of working with a good number of Healthy Starts during the last cycle of Healthy Start, exploring wellness coaching training, and that engagement went really well. And so we're really appreciative to the HRSA project officer, Sandra Methuselah, who helped us reconnect with Dr. Deborah Teplow. And we looked at some of the results of her engagement with, again, a handful of Healthy Start sites during the last cycle. And we're excited that she's here to present to all of you today. And hopefully we can look forward to some follow-up, doing some work with many of you thereafter around support around wellness coaching. So we're just grateful that you've made time to be here today. And we're excited to have Dr. Deborah Teplow with you. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Dr. Deborah Teplow. So Deborah, hand it off to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ken, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here. And we do have the facility to chat. And one thing I'd like to do is to start out today is particularly in light of what's going on with inviting everyone to chat in with one word. And this is part of our, you're already getting trained as wellness coaches. You didn't even have to sign up first. Type in one word that says what you've made go well today. What did you do to make something go well today? You could do more than one word. Just type in, you had coffee. Okay, go for it. Yeah, you did email. Hi, Melissa. Woohoo. Melissa's one of our grads. Self-control, great. Okay, lunch, super. Anybody else? What's one thing that you did that made the day go well? Meditate, calm, prayed, great. Super. Okay. And then really quickly, pray, dance, communicate, okay, great, meet with staff, responses, prayed and plan the day. Okay, a lot of praying, great. And then what's one thing, even the smallest thing, that you're grateful for? One thing you're grateful for. Okay, life, family, life, health, good health, health. Yeah, coworkers, nice. Okay, good. Life, children. Okay, puppy, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how, just small things around us can really make a difference. Great, thank you everyone. And we've now established that our chat works too tomorrow. Okay, wonderful. Okay, and I'm gonna go on. So thank you everybody for participating even in this way. Every little bit counts. So thank you. All right, and let's have that next slide. Okay, so what we want to do is, even in this short time, is to have an impact. And what I hope that I'll be able to do is, even in the smallest way, increase your ability and confidence and competence to be even more effective than you already are. So what I'd like to do is to invite you to do the poll and rate your ability to make changes in your life right now that stick. And one's the worst it could be, and 5 is the best it could be. So just type in, or however you're participating in the poll, and let's get some answers here. Okay, everybody, yeah, okay. Let's see, how would you rate your ability to make changes in your own life that really stick? 1's the worst, and 5 is the best. Okay. And we've got some people chatting in, and that's great. If you can't manage to do it on the phone or computer, just do it in the chat box. Okay, great. So we're pretty solid, kind of midway, and there's room for learning, which is great. Okay, and let's do the next poll. Thank you. And how would you rate your clients' abilities to make changes in their lives that really stick? Again, the same scale. 1's the worst, 5's the best it could be. Okay. How would you rate your clients' abilities to make changes in their lives that stick? Okay. Let's take just a few more seconds. Let's get some more input there. And thank you for entering in the chat also. All right, so our clients have a little bit farther to go in their ability to change. Okay, and let's do the next poll. And how would you rate your ability to engage your clients in a positive change process? 1's the worst could be, 5's the best. How would you rate your ability to engage your clients in a positive change process? That is change that really sticks, works and sticks. Okay. Let's take a few more minutes and get in the polling. Okay, we got a few chats. That's great. Thank you. All right. So we've got some people who are looking for ways to be to increase their ability, and some people are kind of midway, and some rate their ability high. Great. Okay. And I hope this session helps you all do even better. All right, and let's go on. Okay, and now I'd like to start. And for those of you who've already trained with us, I recognize one name. So this is one thing that we encourage everybody to do, and that is to adopt the habit of noticing 5 new things every day, because this will get you started on the way of being that will improve your life in a lot of different ways. So this is a practice that's recommended by Ellen Langer, who's the first woman to get tenure in Harvard's psychology department. And she pioneered the idea of mindfulness without meditation. And this is the total awareness of here and now. And her point is that we go through life quite mindlessly. We trip ourselves up with all sorts of assumptions and judgments, or just silly stuff of not being aware and attuned to what's happening with us and with people and things around us now, here and now. In fact, Ellen once bumped into a mannequin in a store and she apologized to it as if it were a real person. So if that's not the epitome of mindfulness, mindlessness, I don't know. So when you're mindless, you're not able to take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves to you. You're not there, and you're even oblivious to the fact that you're not really present. So Langer advocates a kind of mindfulness without meditation, which means being fiercely committed to noticing, and that is observing without judgment, taking in everything within you and around you with curiosity. And people say, you know, we've got that saying, oh, whatever, we'll be in the moment. And that's really nice, but it's a sort of an empty instruction, because most people believe that they're in the moment or in the present. But truly being in the present is easy to do if you commit to noticing, and especially noticing new things. And noticing doesn't just bring about engagement, but it is the essence of engagement. It's literally and figuratively improving in your life. So let's go on. I'm sorry for that little noise there. Let's go on to the next slide. So learning is really the epitome of noticing. So I invite you all to be fully present right now and notice at least 5 new things as we learn together today. So our agenda, we're going to talk about what is wellness coaching, and why. We're going to talk about our coaching certificate program, and then follow up with outcomes from last year's Healthy Start pilot program. Next slide. So let's go to what is wellness. Next slide. So this is a picture, you probably are all familiar with this. And today wellness is associated with stuff like going on a retreat, sitting in lotus position, burning incense, etc. And much of it is adopted from Eastern practices, but wellness is a lot more than this. It's doing things that improve well-being, and it's available to everyone, no matter what their situation is. And I think that's really important for all of us who work with people who can't necessarily go on beach retreats like this. So let's go on. So what is well-being and why is it useful? So the CDC, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, say that well-being or wellness integrates mental health, the mind, and the physical health, and it results in more holistic approaches to disease prevention and health promotion. It's not only, it is a valid population outcome measure that's beyond just who's sick, who's dying, and it really tells us how people perceive their life is going from their own perspective. And so the CDC says, in fact, well-being is an outcome that's meaningful for public health workers. So advances in psychology, neuroscience, and measurement theory actually suggest that well-being can be measured, and this is again from the CDC's words, what they find is that higher levels of well-being are associated with decreased risk of disease, illness, and injury, and better immune functioning, speedier recovery, and increased longevity. So individuals with high levels of well-being are more productive at work, more likely to contribute to their communities. And in other words, well-being is important. Now, we all know that. And the reason that I show you this slide, and I'm telling you this from CDC perspective, is because we've so often had the medical model of just measuring who's sick and who's dying and died, versus recognizing that it takes a whole person approach to really optimize well-being, and even the CDC asserts that. So let's go on. And this is the definition of addiction recovery from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. And the reason I show that is not that we all have mental health or substance use issues, but it's that even in that context and in all contexts, the idea of change through which we improve our health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach our full potential is a great goal and applies really to all of us. So let's go on. Now I'd like to talk about and ask, what is wellness? So the next set of 10 slides are going to define wellness for you. And they were developed for a graduate of our program who is in Ghana. She has a wellness radio show, and she teaches wellness. So these are all pictures from people in Ghana. So physical wellness is not only just exercising, as these people are doing here, but it also is about leading an active life. So when you have the opportunity to move your body, you're moving. Next slide. This is like my favorite slide of all. It just looks so yummy. I want to dive in and start cooking and eating. So nutritional wellness is eating healthy food. It's also about eating food that will help you establish and maintain a healthy weight. And go on. And medical and dental wellness is about taking care of yourself, not only doing things as seeing doctors and dentists when you have a problem, but it's doing the preventive things that keep those problems away and following recommended medical and dental guidelines. And go on. And social wellness, here these kids are so cute, just want to hug them. So social wellness is all of our social connections. It's not only family, friends, but it's social cohesiveness, how strong the social fabric around us is. And go on. And here's environmental wellness. So often when we think of environmental wellness, we're thinking of kind of tree hugging. I'm from California, so I can say that. And you can see on the right side, there's some discussion about the environment and animals in the environment. But environmental wellness also applies to your own personal environment. And we want to know, we ask the question, is your personal environment set up such that it's reflecting your values and that it's allowing you to do things that are really important to you, things that count in your life. So it's both inside and outside perspective. All right, and go on. So spiritual wellness, another aspect of total wellness. And this is not just your religious beliefs or prayer. Those are important. Spiritual wellness also includes identifying your core values, your identity, purpose, and living in alignment with them. So whether you're a churchgoer or not, or have some kind of other religious practices, everybody has an aspect of themselves that relates to their spiritual wellness. And again, it's about values and living in ways that align with those values. And next slide. Behavioral and intellectual wellness has to do with doing things that have a positive impact on your life, such as exploring new ideas, learning new skills. Plus, the behavioral part is using things like safety gear and avoiding harmful behaviors. It's both doing and thinking in ways that increase your well-being. And next one, psychological and emotional well-being. So that includes coping, managing stress, problem solving, and decision making. Certainly something that we're all really keenly aware of right now. And next slide. Occupational wellness. So here it looks like they're cutting the ribbon on something. And occupational wellness we often think of as only jobs, but occupational wellness is far more than that. It's actually how you occupy your time. So it could be engaging in a hobby, it could be doing social media, or anything that has to do with occupying your time. And so occupational wellness is making sure that you're occupying your time in a way that promotes your well-being, that sense of all is well in the world. All right, and last slide in this set is financial wellness. So that's earning, saving, spending, planning. And let's go on. So here we've got the slide that puts all the 10 dimensions of wellness together. And it's just like the head bone's connected to the neck bone, etc. Many factors contribute to your overall well-being. So it's really important that we take these into account and address them, because if there are aspects that are left out, then we really won't have as great a likelihood of succeeding with well-being. And one thing that I want to point out is that successful change in any one domain can have a ripple effect across other domains, because part of becoming well, changing behavior, is developing the skills that promote change. So one skill in one domain can be used in another domain. And let's go on. So this quote from "We go from strength to strength," that strength to strength idea is a quote from the Bible, which certainly applies to wellness and wellness coaching. So again, that key is to recognize where we're doing well. And as I say, use the rinse and repeat rule. If it's working in one area, use those insights and skills to improve in other areas. All right, and let's go on. Okay, and I'm looking at the chat, and Ken says we'd love to hear about, expand a little on what you mean by making it stick. Yeah, it means sustaining and following through, and it's very easy to, you know, go on a diet and stick to it for a few days until you go to some, well, not right now, but let's say some social event or party or, you know, family reunion, and then it's harder to sustain that change. So what we mean by make change stick is to see it through and make it part of your life. So even in spite of bumps in the roads or some stormy seas, you can still stay on course, and or after you might be thrown off course, you can get back in the saddle and go on your way in a way that's very nourishing and promoting of optimum well-being. So I hope that answered your question, Ken. You can chat in a while, and we'll get more into, oh, yes, and thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, Ken. All right, and let's go on. So wellness coaching, what and why? So let's have the next slide. All right, and here we see change is a given, adapting is a choice. And so here's the guy, you know, current path, whoops, time for plan B. So one hallmark of well-being is the ability to initiate change to improve or adapt to changing circumstances. And, you know, if it's one thing that's true, it's change is a given. But what you do about the change is up to you. You can't always control it, but you can choose how to respond. And so we'll be looking at that, and that ability to adapt, change, and create change for yourself is definitely a key to well-being. And we'll be talking more about that. So let's go on. So wellness coaching, I said it equals the process. It looks at the process of change and how to nurture it. So let's go on. So a couple of key principles, we'll have about 4 or 5 key principles. And the first one is all change is self-change. And you can imagine the subtext of this slide. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And certainly that is a primary tenet for helping people change and grow, is to recognize that all change is self-change. People got to do it themselves. So we need to figure out a way to engage people in their own self-development and change and help them be authors of their own success stories. Let's go on. So this is, I call this Change Anyone? So the cartoon is who wants to change? And everybody's hands goes up. And who wants change? I'm sorry, who wants change? Everybody wants change. Who wants to change? That's a different story. All right, and we're going to talk about how to make it a little bit easier. So let's go on. And the second key principle is that everyone, each person is the expert of themselves. So we can think we know, oh, I understand exactly what you're going through because I've been through the same thing. Well, no, you haven't. You're not that person. You haven't gone through exactly the same. And we kind of delude ourselves when we think we know so well. And so one of the a very important aspect of wellness coaching is to recognize that each person is the expert of themselves. And we love this quote. This is Terry Pratchett, who was an English humorist, satirist, and author of fantasy novels, and he became knighted. So he was Sir Terence David John Pratchett. And he says, after all, when you seek advice from someone, it's certainly not because you want them to give it. You just want them to be there while you talk to yourself. And this was brought home very, very poignantly during 9/11, when I actually saw it happen from the other side of the Hudson, watched the entire thing, and then took some training, and many of you may have had the mental health first aid. And the trainer there recounted a story that he went down to ground zero, and one of the firefighters seemed really strung out, just, had been working however many hours, and he guided the firefighter to the side of the street and sat down with him on the curb and just sat there and didn't say a thing. Absolutely no words were shared or exchanged. After 45 minutes, the firefighter got up and said, "Thank you. I'm ready to go back." This isn't exactly the same thing as Terry Pratchett's quote, but I think it just brings home the point that often people don't need us to do something to tell them what to do. They more just need to have that hand holding, to know that someone is there for them. So let's go on. This is another key principle, that education, information, and communication aren't enough to promote lasting change. And we often overlook this. Helpers overlook it, especially in the field of public health. And I've worked with a lot of clinicians, public health clinicians, and I always say, well, if education, information, and communication were all that it took to get people to change behavior, no one would be overweight, smoke, drink to excess, or even ride a bike without a helmet. And, it says it on every package of cigarettes. Cigarettes cause lung cancer. So education, information, communication are important, but they are not enough to promote lasting change. And let's go on. So when we're helping, another key principle is that people need to feel respected, accepted, heard and understood, and free to exercise choice. So the bottom line is that most of us resist doing stuff because someone told us to, or tried to persuade, or even coerce us. So if you can't first establish respect and have and make the person feel accepted, then kind of all bets are off the table. And I wanted to give you an example of what accepted is. For instance, if you know a teen and they've taken up cigarette smoking, what's the first thing you'd say? You know what? Why don't we do that in the chat? What's the first thing you'd say? Kids just taken up cigarette smoking. What do you tell them? Let's do it really quick. I've got my watch out. I'll time it for 15 seconds. What would you tell them? Chat into the box. What would you say to the kid? Okay, that's bad for you. Yep. What else would you say? I've got to have more than just one. What would you type in? Causes major health problems. You've taken up smoking. Oh, Melissa. I should have said Melissa. What got you started? What brought you to smoking? Okay. Who got you started? Yeah. Trust me, it will change your life for the worst. Yeah. Why start? Okay. Well, okay. I noticed some. So that's interesting. So Melissa and Alicia Washington have both been our trained wellness coaches. And yeah, the first thing to help people feel respected and accepted is just ask. So with curiosity, not what in the world are you doing, but so tell me about it. What do you like about smoking? I'm sure many of your jaws are dropping, but recognize again, kids know. I mean, it's not a mystery that smoking's bad for you. Everybody knows it. There are other reasons they may smoke, and helping them not smoke doesn't depend on figuring out why they started in the first place. And the first thing absolutely that you have to do is be curious, be accepting, respectful, because that goes a long, long way. So let's go on. Next slide. So coaching, how it works, and let's go on. So this is one of my favorite slides. Here is the 20th century, last millennium, helping style. I call it the command and control. And in this traditional model of helping, the expert knows all. The expert probes and analyzes and advises, directs, teaches, determines the cause, and assigns blame. So in this style, the experts are the ones that create the solutions, plan the strategies, design the tools, direct implementation, and define the evaluation metrics. They're the expert, and the person being helped receives their wise counsel and wisdom. So I call this style command and control. Let's go on. So with command and control, this is how we see people. We view people in a certain way as glass half empty, and we take a deficit worldview. We say they don't see, they don't know, they don't understand, they don't know how, they don't even care. Well, let's go on. And so we figure, the way we can fix the problem is by filling the glass. We say, if we could just make people see, then they would change. Or maybe it's a matter of they don't know. Well, if we could just get them to know, then they'd change. Or maybe it's just skills. Well, if we could just teach them how to do it, they would change. And then finally, if that doesn't work, we just give them hell. Well, if you can't make them feel bad or afraid, then, or if you can't do all the rest, just make them feel bad and afraid and warn them and threaten and all that. So let's type in a Y into the chat box if you've ever caught yourself doing one of these things, even just a little, and an N if you've never, ever done it. Really quick, 10 seconds. Ever done it? Type Y. Never done anything or thought anything? Type no. N. Let's go. I should have Y's slamming through this chat box. Yeah, of course. And as I've teased students, I'm sorry to tell you all, you're not that special because everybody does it. We all do that. The problem is it's not very helpful. All right, let's go on with the next slide. So what is a wellness coach? Does anybody know who this is? Type yes if you know who this person is. And if I don't see any yes, okay. Well, my mom just turned 95, and I'm sorry to tell you, she knew who this person was. All right, so I use the analogy of a wellness coach as a guide or a park ranger. So let me introduce you to Betty Reed Soski. She is the oldest ranger in the National Park System. She's assigned to the Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historic Park in Richmond, California. And at age 98, she's the oldest National Park Ranger in the United States. And last February, 2 years ago, she wrote a memoir, and she's going to be 99 this September, and she is still working. All right, so wellness coaches are positive role models. Doesn't mean that you have to be thin to help people lose weight, but you're modeling behavior that will may lead to losing weight. I'm just using that as an example because so many people say, can I be a wellness coach? I'm overweight. Of course you can. A wellness coach is a trusted ally. People trust because they feel you respect them, you accept them unconditionally. A skilled guide. This isn't somebody that's bossing around, but pointing out things along the way. A trained helper, committed leader, and somebody who's good with groups and establishing community and helping people encourage each other. And wellness coaches aren't necessarily mental health professionals, although we've been training a lot of clinicians cross-training as wellness coaches. But wellness coaches don't provide therapy or counseling, consulting, mentoring, or teaching unless they're already, trained and licensed in that. We have actually a number of physicians also who are being wellness coaches. All right, let's go on. So what model do we use? The 21st century coaching model, which I kind of tease, I call it S&M, support and motivate. And here on the slide, you see motivate and support. It's very different from command and control because this 21st century coaching style is exemplified by empathy, curiosity, unconditional positive regard, respect, and respect for the other person's autonomy. And there's also a sense of authenticity. So let's go on. And so what kind of worldview does somebody who's indulging in S&M, support and motivate, have? Well, it's a glass half full, and it's a competency worldview. Again, we've gone through, person is the expert in themselves, and people already have within them much of what is needed to succeed with change. And a person's own arguments for change are more persuasive than whatever arguments you can provide. Again, let's go back to that teenager. How many of you think, and it isn't rhetorical, you don't have to write it in the chat box, how many of you think that that telling the teen it's bad for you and you have no idea how much it's going to harm you in the future is really going to help them? Probably not that many. It would be great if it did, but it doesn't work that way. Let's go on. So we find solutions by drawing water from the well, and that means asking people for their insights, evoking their knowledge, assuming that they have skills, and enhancing their self-efficacy. And it sounds like Carl Rogers' concept. Yes, absolutely. Somebody said in the chat, that was Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard. You got to start there. In fact, let me see. Yikes, I'm watching the time. In fact, I'll just say very briefly, the FBI, US FBI, completely transformed their hostage negotiation process after Waco, Texas. I forgot how many years ago, a couple decades ago, when lots of people were killed because the law enforcement just went in with guns blazing after a long standoff. So the FBI said, holy cow, we got to change what we do. They completely transformed hostage negotiation, and now they start with active listening. So just tell me, talk to me. Then they move to empathy. I hear you're really angry. I see, I understand. You really want XYZ. And then they build rapport. That's shared goals. And they move from there. But they start with that idea of unconditional acceptance, curiosity, and positive regard. All right, let's go on. So what do wellness coaches do? Well, in the case of the Institute for Wellness Education, we train you to use evidence-based tools recognized by SAMHSA's National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. And so we've already gone through a little bit, modeling wellness by making healthy choices, engaging people in conversations about wellness and well-being, shining the light on people's own strengths, skills, and resources, and helping people define the changes that are meaningful for them, and using science-based approaches, methods, techniques, tools that will get them there and help those changes stick. So let's go on. We have to recognize that change is Change doesn't happen like an epiphany. Sometimes it does, but you can't control it. It's really a process. And so many people that we work with, their interest in change is characterized by yes, but, and type into the chat box if you've ever said it yourself or heard a client say it. Y for yes, N for no. Have you ever said, yeah, I know I need to do X, Y, Z, but? Anybody ever said that? Or a client said, yeah, gotta have those yeses. Let's see those. Yeah, of course. And when we say, okay, so you know you should be doing this, but, and we say, well, how about this? Or why not that? Change isn't going to work. Why? Because we've got two little voices, one on each shoulder going, do it this way. And the other one says, no, I'm too tired. I don't have enough time. Costs too much money. Everyone will laugh at me, whatever. So we have to recognize it's a process. Start with where people are at and use strategies that are exactly matched to where people are at in the change process. All right. And that's part of what you learn through our course. Let's go on. So what's the question? So here, again, if we think of helping others, and if we think that it's all about information, we miss the point, because change is a process that may start with someone not even recognizing that there's a need for change or what the benefits are of change. And too often we think, what can I get to do her to, what can I get, oh, how can I get her to do this? Or, you know, what can I do that will get them? When I hear that, what can I do to get them? You know, kind of put the, what is it, palm to the forehead. We really, you know, unfortunately, we can't get anyone to do anything. If you've ever dealt with a 2-year-old, you know that's true. No questions. So coaching, and in fact, most effective helping comes from engaging the other person in their own learning and their own change process. So a better question might be, what door can I open that invites the person in? So the reason I think it's important is not only what, but it's how to change. That is really the key. And we will be talking about that in just a bit. So let's go on. So I want to talk about IWE's Wellness Coaching Certificate Program and what it entails. So let's go on. And we invite everybody not only to notice 5 new things every day, but to be the scientist and the subject. And in fact, this concept came when I was working with a group in Harlem at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and the pastor there said, you know, what you're asking us to be is both the scientist and the subject. And I thought it was such a great metaphor. So we've adopted it. Anyway, and so what is the scientist? Well, the scientist has some hypotheses and they run experiments. Well, let's try it. Let's see if it works. And they observe what works, what doesn't work. If something works, well, do more of it. Something works only a little bit, tweak it till it does work. If something doesn't work at all, toss it and try something new. That's the scientist part. Now, who's the scientist running their experiments on? Well, it's you. You're the subject. So we invite you to be both the scientist and the subject in your own life. And bottom line, have fun with it. And let's go on. Next slide. Yeah. And so one important model, I think that characterizes our approach to wellness coaching is to move from drain to spec. And this is a model designed by Isaac Prelopensky in Miami. He's Dean of Education down there, I think. Drain is deficits, reactive, it's arrogance, and individual blame. So it means that, so drain focuses on what's going wrong. Reactive is throwing something at it because we think we understand the problem. Arrogance is thinking that we know what other people need and how to solve their problem. And individual blame is blaming people for their problems. And drain sucks energy out of people, and it doesn't work. So to overcome these problems, we really need a different model, and that's spec, as focusing on strengths. So we know people strive when their strengths are acknowledged and appreciated and built on. So what we say through our training is shine the light on people's strengths, skills, and resources. Prevention also is important. There'll never be enough money nor helpers to assist everyone who needs. So we need to work to prevent is exactly what you all are doing at Healthy Start. And also to empower. So we prevent by giving people control, the voice and choice, which are essential, and helping them develop the skills so that they can live lives that are healthy and guide families that are healthy and enjoy as much well-being as possible. And then finally, community change. We are, man isn't an island, or whatever that expression is. It takes two to tango, whatever all those metaphors are. We can't just look at the individual. And the individual can have all the best intentions in the world, to have everything set up. But if the community is not supportive, then it's going to be very hard for people to change. So we want to address all of those and empower all of those aspects. So let's go on. So how do we move from drain to spec? Well, two things. It's what we say and it's what we do. So we're going to talk about those coming right up. Next slide. So our approach, our spec approach, strengths, prevention, empowerment, and community, it is based on several principles. One is whole person, person-centered, and the whole person means not just their problem. And person-centered is about what they want, what's important to them. Strength-based is also about person being the expert of themselves. And strength-based is acknowledging and capitalizing, marshaling on people's strengths and their skills and their resources. The biopsychosocial spiritual recognizes that we have to have mind, body, community, and spirit to really make change and make it stick. And then it's relationship focused, because it's relationships that really help support change. When people know that you have their back, or they're six, I think that's a military expression, people feel that they can move forward. And we are social animals, so that relationship is really important. I'm sure you all know that. And relationships can be therapeutic and they can be healing. And let's go on. So we want, and this is just a little aside that came home to me very powerfully. We want to deal with the whole person, not just their pathology. And it's not just the leg in room 209. Years ago, a friend of mine had an accident, broke her leg. She was in a hospital. Oh, and by the way, her husband was a physician at the hospital. It was a tiny, tiny hospital in the mountains of Northern California. And she was hearing the nurses kind of chattering at their station. And one of them said, oh yeah, I need to go and check on the leg in 209. And my friend was horrified and said, I'm a person. I'm not just the leg in 209. And she was kind of appalled, since they knew her husband. So to kind of refer to her as just her leg, her broken part. So we need to make sure we don't think of ourselves as just our broken parts, nor our clients as what their deficits or problems are. All right, let's go on. And so what we do is encourage and train you to find solutions. And what does that mean, find solutions? Is that the same as solving problems? Well, this is a really simple example of our orientation that's solution focused versus problem solving. So let's say let's say your manager, your coworker, and you depend on your coworkers coming to work on time. And one of them, kind of persistently comes to work. Half the time they're work on time, and half the time they're not at work on time. And so you go have a conversation with them. And what's the first thing you say? Hey, you're not coming into work. You're late half the time. What's going on? What's the problem? Oh, the problem is this. Well, what about this? Have you tried that? Do you think about this? Why is that happening? So that's a problem solving method. What do you think the solution finding method would be? And our grads, Melissa and I think I saw Alicia, they will probably know the answer to this. So what do you think the answer is? Problem solving, what do you ask them? Well, it's sort of in front of our faces, because notice, and again, this is a noticing. They're on time. You came to work on time. How can we increase it? Yes. Okay. Do I pronounce your first name Sherry? That's it exactly. What do you think could help you to get to work on time? Yeah. The fact is, they're already doing it. they've already been getting to work on time. So that's where we need to notice what's helping you do that. How are you managing it? What's any questions about that? It's who else is helping you get to work on time? What are you thinking about? How did you construct it? No, how did you arrange it? And that is the strength-based approach. So that's what we're talking about in terms of finding solutions. All right, I want to go over and pass the next 2 slides because I'm watching the time. And well, I just mentioned, so what can wellness coaching do for you? Well, it can, let's go back 1 slide, I'm sorry. Okay, well, it improves your critical communication skills, and communication skills are key. It supports your use of a person-centered and a relationship-centered approach. It gives you competence with evidence-based tools and techniques. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't evidence-based, not grounded in science. Might sound good, it might be plausible, but we know that as more neuroscience is done, behavioral science, even behavioral economics, we're learning what really does make people click, or what makes people click, and what makes change stick. And our training really increases your reflective practice with real-time feedback so you can keep improving your skills. And let's go on. So evidence-based, I already mentioned that our training is based on good science. Most of the tools, methods, and strategies that you learn in our course are adapted or directly from items in the U.S. National Registry for Evidence-Based Programs or Practices, NREP, and we includes behavior design science, motivational interviewing, solution-focused approaches, behavioral economics, positive psychiatry, interactive journaling, and a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy. And let's go on. So I just wanted to tell you that wellness coaching is an occupation that's approved by the Department of Labor. It was approved about 7 years ago. In fact, we wrote the National Occupational Competencies and 2-year training curriculum for the Department of Labor's apprenticeship program in wellness coaching. And it is considered, it comes under the occupational heading of community health worker. So that was kind of interesting. It wasn't in a therapy, it was community health worker. That includes all sorts of different occupations. And so that was pretty cool to be able to do that for the US Department of Labor. And let's go on. So let's talk now about the nuts and bolts of our certification program. Well, it's convenient and we use multiple formats. There's an online portion. We use interactive journaling, which I'll show you in just a bit. We have a live skills practice teleconferences. The course is self-paced within a certain time framework we're talking about 8 to 12 weeks. Schedule is convenient because you do it on your own, except for the live teleconferences. And we offer teleconferences every day of the week at different times, and we arrange them so that you can jump on. There's no homework or planning, it's skills practice. It's going out and shooting baskets. It fits all learning styles because we have a lot of material that's auditory, that's visual, that's doing, and it's competency-based and experiential. People learn by doing. There is no big exam at the end of our training, no exam at all, actually. There are a lot of little quizzes just to reinforce the learning, not to trick you. In fact, we've had several students say, oh, those are kind of addictive. And there's supervised real world practice. Those are on teleconferences, and people, I hope our grads will be able to talk a tiny bit and share today about the practice. It's rigorous, and you become certified when you can demonstrate that you have the skills that are going to make a difference in your life and the lives of your clients. And that's just a purely a live, real-time little coaching session. The time requirement we estimate to be 36 to 50 hours total. Some people go fast, some people go slower, and that's our estimate. And let's go on. So course curriculum. We talk about, we train all about wellness, what it is, and all of the dimensions of wellness that we've already gone through, all things physical, nutritional, medical, dental, inner and outer spaces, such as social, environmental, and spiritual wellness, and then what we call mind, mood, action, behavioral and intellectual, psychological and emotional wellness, time and money, which is occupational and financial wellness. So talk about all those, define them. You will be doing live experiential exercises in those. And then we talk about the science of behavior change. And we have a significant portion of the course is developing your coaching skills. So you use a systematic process to address the personal, social, and environmental factors that support positive, lasting change. Much of our training that we offer is built in motivational interviewing. Lots of people have gotten courses in that. And what Case Western says is, Case Western does a very good motivational interviewing program. And they say, yeah, everybody's learned it, but very few people can do it. And because it takes practice, and we're all about practice. And we make sure that you develop the competency and the confidence, and we have fun with practice too. All right, and let's go on. So this is, we use Canvas, and this is an example. It's colorful, and it's super simple to use. And I think right now, probably half the world is on Canvas. And let's go on. We also use interactive journaling, and these are journals adapted from journals from the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. And these are, have incredibly strong positive data supporting them. The Change Companies is one company that does these journals. They work in two kind of areas, with incarcerated people and with people with substance use disorders. And they've worked with over 25 million people in the last 25 years, had incredible, incredible success. And so the journaling process helps people self-reflect. It gives people tools and skills. And we also have had some really positive outcomes with journaling. And so these are tools you can use for yourself and for individuals. It's a structure. It gives you a structure to guide people through a change process. And the theoretical underpinnings include the trans-theoretical model of change, stages of change, motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral concepts, and strategies. It's participant-centered. It emphasizes self-efficacy, and it's a roadmap for change. So you get that. And I'll give you, let's go to the next page. And you can see these are some pages. So we have a lot of use of color. They're bite-sized copy. It's relevant and focused on real-life application. It's a pretty consistent reading level. We tried to keep it between 8th and 10th grade. That may be a problem for some people, but you can certainly use it in groups and or with a single client. You do the reading yourself. And so it's kind of the use of thirds. A third of the page is some information. A third is text and graphics, and a third are exercises. Well, let's go on. So as I said, we use these journals. We encourage you to use them as groups, because if you use, we call it journal clubs, because it allows you to share, to broaden your perspectives, to learn from others, not others saying this is what you should do, but here's what worked for me, to encourage, reinforce, and allow you to rehearse new ways of being and thinking. Journals have been used with professionals, with staff members, clients, and even with the staff's families. Let's go on. Another really powerful technique we teach is BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits method. BJ is a professor at Stanford and just published a book, Tiny Habits, and I have a credit in this Tiny Habits book because I trained with BJ over the last many years. I'm part of his international group, and Tiny Habits is an awesome method for making, I call it turning good behavior into habits, and habits are unconscious behaviors. We do them as soon as they're cued. So let's go on for the next slide. And this is kind of the Tiny Habits formula. And the classic formula, I'm not going to go into this, it's part of our training, but if you want to do something like learn how to like floss your teeth, and I'm not going to ask anybody about, just write in the chat if you floss all your teeth or not, we're not going there. But this is a way to increase, let's say, your flossing habit. After I brush my teeth, that's a routine I do every single day without fail, it's very solid. I will floss 1 tooth. That's a tiny habit. And the point is, I can always floss one tooth. It's such a tiny little habit or tiny behavior that I won't be too tired, too distracted, not have enough time, doesn't cost in any way, shape, or form. I can always do it. And then I'll immediately celebrate. And we will talk a little bit about celebration. Another tiny habit, we have students who are doing 200 squats a day. Did they start with 200? No, they started with 2. After I pee, I will do 2 squats and then immediately say, Yahoo, I did it. And so we train on this, and I will share some of the outcomes we've had with tiny habits. So let's go on. Another very powerful framework for change that we go into very heavy is the 6 sources of influence. It's the work of social scientists in Utah who work with companies, organizations around the world, from Fortune 50 companies to the slums of Nairobi, and they've had incredible success because they found that successful change depends not just on your wanting to do it or having tremendous willpower. Willpower poops out, so you can't depend on that, but on these motivation and ability in 3 areas: personal, social, and structural. You have to want to do it. You have to be able to do it. You have to have people that cheer you on. It's the norm. We all do it. You have to have people that you can get help from, that can train you, that will, like an exercise class, not right now. You have to create incentives, and that's where that celebration comes from. And then make it easy. Create an environment that is conducive to your doing your target behavior. Like, we had a student who wanted to take vitamins, but she'd put them on her table, but they were ugly. She put them on her kitchen table, so she came into the kitchen, she'd take them, but the bottles were really ugly, so she put them on the counter. She always forgot, and then she realized, and she had a beautiful ceramic bowl she loved. So every evening after she did the dishes, she put her vitamins for the next day in this ceramic bowl, put it on the table. She'd walk into the kitchen, lo and behold, there was a beautiful bowl with her vitamins. So she's taking her vitamins every day. That's an example of managing your environment to make it easy to do the behavior that you want to do. All right, and let's go on. So one thing else that we do in our program is train you how to do outcomes measurement, because it's super important. You can think you're doing a great job, and I use the example of a musician. They can play, Mozart from here to next year, do great. But if people don't like hearing Mozart, it's not going to, that ain't going to fly. So when you're working with clients, you have to know that they're, first of all, where are they at? How do they feel? How are they doing? How do they rate their personal well-being, their interpersonal, their social? And then in terms of when you're working with them, do they feel heard and understood? That's on the right. Relationships. Are you working on goals and topics that are important to them, not what you think is important? Do the approaches work? And finally, overall, how would they rate how things are going with the session? So we teach you to do that and what to do once you've gotten those scores. All right, and let's go on. So this is making a difference, and there will be a recording of this so you can go through more, but these are a few quotes from our grads. Many were in healthcare. People are better clinicians because they can help patients make important lifestyle changes. Lots of people say it transformed how they're interacting with people. And the nurse on the right, I'm actually playing the piano every day again. Interestingly, she did a tiny habit. After I pour my coffee, she drank coffee every single morning and every afternoon when she got back from her job. After I pour my coffee, I will sit at the piano. That's all. Well, lo and behold, she started playing the piano for a few minutes every day, and it grew to 15 minutes. She still kept her tiny habit. She still sits at the piano. Even if she doesn't have time to do 15 minutes, still sits at the piano with the coffee, might play a little bit. And that's transformed her life. So we've had really amazing success. I like that one because it's kind of things you wouldn't think about. All right, let's go on. Another very important thing that we teach is, and I didn't realize this slide actually is copyright by Dreams Time. I'm going to change that. I had one that was fuzzy, but anyway. So goals are different than outcomes. And that's really important to recognize because we so often talk to our clients about goals. Set your goal, stop smoking, lose weight, do this with your baby, you know, do nursing or breastfeed. Here's how you do it. You should have a goal, breastfeed, you know, 100% till the child's whatever, however many months. And goals are important. There's a big thing about SMART goals. Those goals are important, but, you know, lose 10 pounds, bring your blood pressure down to 120/70. Those are just numbers. What we need to focus on instead are outcomes. So let's talk about outcomes. Next slide. So goals are the what do I do? Outcomes are the so what, and the outcomes are what drive behavior. They answer the what difference does it make to me and what's in it for me. So let's say I go to the doctor who says lose 20 pounds, and then they measure me and weigh me every week, right, or every month, whatever, when I come to see them. It's just a number, because I love donuts and it's a struggle every time I go to the doctor. You know, she weighs me, talks about eating more vegetables or whatever. But what if she said, you know, what would be different? Suppose you lost 20 pounds. How would your life be different? What would you be doing differently? What would people that you love and care about you be noticing about you? What would you be doing differently? So, you know, if I don't want to flip to the previous slide, but that's the lose 20 pounds. That's the goal. This is the outcome. And this is what helps people change. My husband's taking me out dancing on Friday night. All right, and let's go on. Language, super important. And this is one of the key focus of our training, because language is what distinguishes human beings from all other social animals. It allows us to think symbolically. We can think about our lives without manipulating them on a physical level. We can create, we can imagine. And this is the world of thought, belief, values, mystery, and wonder. It's critical. So let's go on. And we say language is the fuel that powers all human interaction. And go on. Here's a quote from Henry David Thoreau. The greatest compliment that was ever paid me was when one asked me what I thought and attended to my answer. So that we just have to kind of reflect on how tuned in are we. And let's go on. I see, is there a website for wellness coaching training? Yes, there is, and I'll talk about that in a sec. Let's go on to the basics. So the basics are pretty simple. And as we'll see, simple doesn't mean easy. So how easy is it to be curious and accepting when someone does something you think is wrong or bad for them? Let's take that teen smoking, right? How hard is that? Or how easy is it to be respectful? And we say respect, be curious, and accept. And some people, you know, kind of get panicked, like, what do you mean accept? Kids, he's 17 and he's smoking, or she's, you know, 14 and doing what she shouldn't be doing. How do we accept? Well, accept doesn't mean that you approve or that you agree. It only means that you honor where the person is at. And so that takes a lot of practice to be accepting, and recognizing that we're not agreeing or approving, we're just accepting. And so that's one thing that we drill down in our course and help you do better. Let's go on. And there's Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And there's a special way of how you make them feel. Let's go on. And amazingly enough, it's not about agreeing with them. I agree with you totally. Or praising them. I'm so proud of you. It's kind of surprising. And as we work through our course, we start understanding what all of these. This comes from Thomas Gordon, a psychologist since deceased, but he says these are roadblocks to good communication and to building a trusting relationship. And compare, just for an example, compare this phrase, I'm so proud of you. Imagine your client does something, you say, oh, I'm so proud of you. Again, we say, instead of that, imagine saying, how did you do that? What did your family notice about your doing that? How did they like that? And you do it with a tone of admiration. That goes a lot farther to build that person's own sense of agency and empowerment that you're saying, instead of you're saying kind of paternalistically or maternalistically, I'm so proud of you. So let's go on. Again, it's not, and this is sort of like our previous kind of exercise, if we could only just, or I don't know, oh, maybe we had this. I'm sorry, I think we had this. It's a repeat. Yeah, the just business. Let's go on. So we want to tinker, we say we tinker under the hood of language, and let's go on. So we go far beyond the basics. The basics are basic and key, but in our course, we teach you some more very sophisticated languaging techniques that have to do with providing direction, not telling, but helping to guide in direction and focus in a very special way that's still respectful, that emphasizes autonomy. We talk about priming, and priming is something I did actually at the very beginning of this talk when I said, notice 5 things. So a priming way, and I'm just going to give you a little tip, is at the end of a session with a client, prime them for the next session. Say, you know, I'm going to ask you the next time we meet, what's been going better for you? What have you noticed that's going better? Even if it's the tiniest bit better, what are you doing? Even the tiniest thing to make things better. That's priming. And then the next time you see the person, say, remember I told you, I asked you to just notice. Very powerful technique, small but powerful. Resource talk is about, again, shining the light on what's going well. What did you do? How did you get to work on time? What's going a little bit better? And change talk is that kind of talk where we emphasize and we really shine that light on what is the talk that promises change or that shows an interest and a commitment to change. It's the difference between if somebody says, I want to lose weight, but I like chocolate too much. It's instead of going, well, you know, why do you like chocolate so much? To, okay, tell me more about what benefits of losing weight. What's your interest in losing weight? What do you think you'll get out of it? So that's an example of change talk and emphasizing that versus the talk about the problem. Let's go on. The delight of the dunk. This is one of my favorite slides. And imagine the joy you or your kid would feel when you, from making the kind of marshmallow dunk into your hot chocolate. So celebrating is a really important skill that we teach you how to do and how to get your clients to do. And it's not reward. Celebration is that spontaneous, immediate sense of mastery, of joy that comes from doing a target behavior you want to do. And there's a special way to do celebration, and celebration rewires your brain for success. That's another thing that we do. So let's go on.
Deborah, this
Yes.
is Olivia. I just want to note we have about 15 minutes left.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you. So we encourage you to be curious instead of certain. And let's go on to our outcomes. Go on, next one. All right, I want to share some outcomes. Let's go on. So this was the wellness coaching course is called Take Charge of Your Life, Be Well to Do Well. Let's go on. And we say learning is a lot more than can be scored, and we will talk about that another time. So go on. So our training made a difference. We asked participants, you know, to rate the training in terms of its impact. And 50% said it was, quote, transformative, and 42% said very impactful. So 92% said in total impactful. Let's go on. Participants reported being able to listen, empathize, manage their difficult feelings, conflicts with others, engage in their own healthy lifestyle practices, make changes and stick, and share in a way that was compelling and didn't turn people off. Let's go on. We asked to rate the level of content. 88% said just right, not too hard, not too easy, and 81% said the amount of material was just right, not too much, and not too little. And let's go on. 80% would strongly recommend the program to family and friends. 85% would strongly recommend the program to colleagues. And let's go on. And 70% said course had a broad appeal for anyone interested in health and wellness. 75% said the course is great for all types of people who want to make changes in their lives. And Ken, you mentioned Sandra Methuselah, and when she looked at this, she was just so thrilled because she said these data are incredible. And when I've talked to other people, HR people, they say you don't get these kind of data from most programs. So we were really thrilled. And let's go on, because I have a couple of stories I want to share. So more people are coming into my office. And so this is what one of our grads said: more people are comfortable coming in to speak with me with me because I'm not interjecting all the time. A lot of people, especially at work, would look at me and say, "You're not going to say anything?" I'm like, "No, I'm waiting for you to finish." And then they'd be like, "Wow, okay." And then they'd go on with their talking and still look at me and say like, "Wow, she's really waiting until I'm done." And now I have more people coming into my office. It's gotten to the point where I have to put a sign on my door when I'm trying to do work so no one will interrupt me. Next slide. Such good information. My doctor wants me to teach their colleagues. So this is a person said, honestly, I learned so much. I think I talk people's ears off every day. And I even had a medical procedure done. She goes to her doctor and he was talking about how difficult it is for people to change. And he said one word and she said, it was like a trigger. I started telling him about change talk. And then he stopped working on my hand to ask me questions. He's like, well, it sounds great. Would you be willing to meet some of my colleagues and speak to them? So let's go on. Tiny habits was very powerful. One grad said, my clients love tiny habits. One of my clients started saying yes, the celebration after she finishes her prayer every morning, and it's made her feel so fulfilled. She says it has a huge difference in her life. She's like, it's like her own powerful amen that goes straight up to the Lord. Another client has pica. She eats things that aren't really food, and in rural Arkansas, a lot of people eat cornstarch. So this client says, when she notices that things are really bothering her and she feels the urge to eat cornstarch, she takes a sip of water instead. And her tiny habit is, after I feel the urge to eat cornstarch, I'll take one sip of water. And the Healthy Start person said it really has worked. So next slide. So what we really emphasize is progress, not perfection. It's all about learning and celebrating that learning. Let's go on. So as I've said, stuff is simple, not rocket science, but it's not easy. Go on. It takes a lot of practice. And often I say, what's the difference between a 2-year-old, who can throw a ball in a forward direction, like that little girl we saw before, and a pitcher in the World Series? Well, it's practice. Let's go on. And so this is one of my favorite pictures of practice, and go on. So what? Oh, so what? And now what? What you've gotten it. We really look forward to working with you to train more Healthy Start professionals as wellness coaches. So what? Because it will make a difference in your life. It will make a difference in the lives of your family, your community, and your clients. So it's a ripple effect. And now what? Well, let's get into questions. And well, I'd like to get the next slide. And who knows who this is on the far right? This will aid you if you recognize. We made it to the finish line. This is Wilma Rudolph. So African-American Olympian. Yes. All right. And let's go to the next slide and the next slide. And there's my contact information. Somebody asked about a website. I will certainly give that to you. And our website is in the change process. So that's why I didn't put it up here, but I'd be glad to share that with you. And Ken asked, the data from your earlier work compelling, which is okay. I'm open for questions, Q&A. Actually, I'm open for questions. Oh, I think do we have some, Olivia or Tess, do we have the outcomes questions at the end? Do we have more polling?
Yes, Tess will transfer to the other slides to show.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is really important for polling, that outcomes are, you can think you're doing a great job, but unless you actually, get feedback, you don't know. So outcomes are really, really important to us. We want to serve you well, and that's why we always ask outcomes. Our students know. The question we always ask at the end of every training session is, please rate how valuable the course was and what are you going to do about it? But Tess is coming up with the outcomes. So let's take a question. Can you send slides? I'll share. Yeah, I think we can share.
We will, yep. We'll be posting the slides on Epic as well as the recording from this webinar. If anyone wants to revisit it, or if your staff members couldn't attend and want to go back and look at it.
Okay, so now this is really important. Imagine that it's sometime in the future and you have implemented even one tiny idea, some of the ideas, but even one tiny idea that we went over today. How would you rate your ability to make changes in your own life that stick? So again, is 1 is the worst it could be, 5 is the best, and we've got a few minutes, so please everybody rate. Imagine sometime in the future and you have implemented even one small idea that we went over today. How would you rate your ability to make changes in your own life that stick? All right, we've got some chat also. Great. All right. And just a few more seconds, 10 more seconds to get everybody's input. All right, let's go on to the next question. How would you rate your clients? Okay, imagine it's in the future and you have just implemented one small, even the smallest idea that you learned today. How would you rate your clients' abilities to make changes in their lives that stick? Worst it could be is 1, 5 is the best it could be. Implemented just even one change. I implement all of them, why not? But let's start small. How would you rate your clients' abilities to make changes in their lives that stick? Okay, let's take about 10 more seconds, and I will answer a question.
One question asked was, is wellness coaching a replacement for motivational interviewing, or should it be used in partnership with that skill?
So motivational interviewing, those are some of the conversational skills that we teach coaches to use. Motivational interviewing, we tend to use, we use those as again, as the basic conversational skills. We do not use motivational interviewing necessarily as the structure for a conversation. We use the 6 sources because motivational interviewing is really, the definition, it's a conversation that engages people in their own thinking about change and resolving ambivalence, the yes, but it doesn't supply a full framework. And that's why we use the 6 sources of influence, because you could be a great motivational interviewing and never ask people, oh, so you're motivated to stop smoking. You have a plan to stop smoking. You even have a quit date. Fantastic. Motivational interviewing never asks necessarily, and who's around to support you? Is there a social norm? What are the cues in your environment? And how are you going to celebrate your success of eating that tiny one baby carrot instead of smoking the cigarette? So we use motivational interviewing as the skills. We use the tiny habits as one method. We use solution focused approaches and the 6 sources. Let's go on to let's go on to the next thing. How would you rate your ability to engage clients in a positive change process? This is based on you're implementing something you learned today. Imagine you implemented something that you learned today. How would you rate your ability to engage your clients in a positive change process? Let's take a few moments to do that. Hear from everybody. Wow. I'm wondering, I forgot if we have another polling question. Let's take 5 seconds. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Finish this poll. Let's go on. I want Melissa, if we could have, please rate the value of this webinar. This is the last one. Please rate the value of this webinar for you 10 is super, 1 is the opposite. Because again, we can't help people make positive change if we don't know that what we're doing works. So please rate the value. Can we have a bunch in the chat box also? Let's take a few more seconds, because if we could get open, I know it's late, if we could open the floor in some way to Melissa and Alicia. Melissa, you already had really fantastic outcomes. I'm seeing you did Tiny Habits, used with approximately 40 women last year, and 80% had either continued or modified and were practicing their Tiny Habit and follow up a month later. Fantastic. We did have someone who joined the course, and I talked about Tiny Habits. She said, that's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You could floss one tooth and that would make change. And the next week she came back and she said it had transformed her life. All right. Okay, and thank you everybody for that feedback. And let's go on. And there I am. So take down my information, and so we'll share this. And questions, comments, and getting training. Oh, that is great. All right.
So we're about at time, but if anyone has any questions that they still want to ask, feel free to send them to us at healthystart@nichq.org. I'm going to pass it on to Ken.
Okay, thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you, Olivia. I think this is a great introduction and reintroduction to some that know. I think there's a couple of things to highlight really quickly. One is congratulations to you, Deborah, and the approval by the U.S. Department of Labor for the community health workers. And Healthy Start, we love our community health workers, and so we appreciate that support. I also would love the polls to see that at the end of this training today that people felt were encouraged and inclined that their client's ability increased. It was very different from the beginning of the call. So I thought that was really exciting. And so again, as we provide TA for all of you, we want you to keep your eye out and open for opportunities for Wellness Code. We want to hear from you. If you really thought it was valuable today, we see from the poll that the answer is yes. But we certainly want to follow up with you all to see how we can make this available to our Healthy Start communities around the country. So thanks again for joining us today. And we continue to keep everyone in our thoughts as we continue to be in the moment in our history that we are in this country with the COVID-19. So thank all of you. Have a great rest of the week, and we will stay in touch. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Such a pleasure and honor to, quote, meet with you and work with you today.
Thanks again, Deborah.
Okay.
All right, Olivia, thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.